Hey YouTube, Kier Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Performapal Yugioh deck profile for post Rise of the Duelist. With the release of the newest TCG booster set, Rise of the Duelist, we were given 2 new Performapal cards, and since the last update, which was post Magical Hero, I just thought we were due for an update for the Performapal deck, because it's definitely been quite a while since I've, tinkered with the deck and just what it can do. It's a really fun deck for those that are looking for a pendulum deck that focuses on just pendulum summoning out a bunch of different monsters, gaining different effects, and having a bunch of different extra deck summons as well with these effects. Makes for a fun touch, and definitely one that Yuya Sakaki from Arc 5 would definitely be proud of as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. Now, one thing that's crazy about the Performapal deck is that we still do have a lot of cards from this deck that are on the ban list, including Skullcrabat Joker and Monkey Board, which help for the search power, but altogether what we're running still makes up for a good amount of it. But if we ever get any of those off the list, it'll definitely help the deck for sure. I'm running 3 Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer. This card's always been a staple for the deck. If a Performapal is pendulum summoned while this card's in the pendulum scale, all Performapals you currently control gain 1000 attack until end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. So it's just a good power booster in the pendulum scale, but you mostly want to use Pendulum Sorcerer for its monster effect. If this card's special summon, you can target up to 2 cards you control, destroy them, and if you do, add Performapal monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, except for Pendulum Sorcerer, equal to the number of monsters destroyed. You can only use this effect of Pendulum Sorcerer once per turn. Now, this is the older text for Pendulum Sorcerer. It doesn't have to be monsters. It could be any card. So remember that with the ones you destroyed to gain the search, making it that much better. But being able to grab whatever Performapal monsters you need for your plays, with one of our big ones being the fusion summon of the new Performapal Odd Eyes Metal Claw, making a very strong fusion monster with the help of searching out proper material for it, makes it all the better, and a definite 3 of in the deck for sure. For more search power, I'm also running 3 Performapal Second Donkey. I've always liked this card in the deck. It's the only non-pendulum monster that I run, but still very helpful for all of the different plays it can do. When this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 Performapal monster from your deck to the graveyard, except Second Donkey. If you have 2 cards in your pendulum zone, you can add this card to your hand instead. So most of the time with this card, when you do go for the summon of it, it's going to be with a pendulum summon, which you can only do if you have 2 pendulum scales set up anyway. So Second Donkey can rely on that for that guaranteed search to add it into your hand, and all the more powerful if you summon, Pendulum Sorcerer at the same time, because then you'll be able to get an additional search with these cards, setting up a whole new play style for you to do next turn. So 3 of these make for just easy search power with all of them together. But like I said, unless you want it to be sent to the graveyard, make sure you have your pendulum scale set up for Second Donkey also. For some of the lower numbers I'm running, I also run 2 Performapal Yugioh Golem. With this, once per turn, if a monster is fusion summoned to your field except during damage step, you can add 1 Performapal Odd Eyes or Magician Pendulum from your graveyard or face up in the extra deck to your hand. With Master Rule 5, we're still limited to the play power of Pendulum monsters, still only being able to summon 2 Link Arrows or the extra monster zone from the extra deck. So being able to recycle those cards with Yugioh Golem, especially helpful since fusion summoning is a big part of this version of the deck. And in the monster zone, once per turn during your main phase, if this card was pendulum summoned this turn, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using this card you control, and dragon type monsters as fusion materials, making it all the better because the requirements for Odd Eyes Metal Claw are 1 Odd Eyes monster and 1 Performapal monster, meaning you can use Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon and your Yugioh Golem to easily make that card as well. I might even consider bumping this card up to 3. If that were the case, I would take out the next card as a 3rd option for Yugioh Golem, which that card is the new Performapal card Gardna. Once per turn, you can target 1 face-up defense position monster you control. Its defense becomes equal to the combined original defense of all face-up defense position monsters you currently control. And on the field as a monster, it gains defense equal to the combined original defense of all other Performapals you control. So the more Performapals you have, it's just basically what the card says, a card guarder, being able to guard against your opponent's attacks with a pretty high defense. But once again, it doesn't help for much of the plays. It's more just there for defense, and also the fact that it has a scale 8 pendulum scale, meaning you can go for some higher level monsters with this as your high scale in the deck to rely on. But some of the other ones, and that's why I said if you wanted to drop card Gardna to a one of, I do run 2 Odd Eyes Unicorn, being a searchable Performapal since it has Odd Eyes in its name with Sky Iris, and then just being able to have this 8 scale with a life point gain effect as well, making it all the better for sure for your different plays. That's why I like to run it. And also when it's normal or special summon, you can target one Performapal monster in your graveyard and gain life points equal to its attack, making it for a great recover power. Also, since some of them will go to the extra deck, but if you exceed summon, they'll go to the graveyard, or cards like Second Donkey after you use them for a fusion play, or just for a link summon, you name it, will be in the graveyard as well for you to use. And fusion summoning with polymerization is another important part of the deck, so I'm also running 2 Performapal Trump Witch. Once per turn, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion material. I just wanted a lot of fusion options in this deck since we have a good amount of fusion monsters in the extra deck, but mostly I want to use it for the tribute effect, which adds 1 polymerization from my deck or graveyard to my hand, because with that you want the polymerization for the effect of Odd Eyes Metal Claw, which we'll go over when we get to the extra deck, since it's very important for the play altogether to, rely on polymerization specifically for that summon. And for some of the one-ofs, we do run a good amount of one-ofs for the Performapal monsters, but that's only for the fact that they're that much easier to search out, depending on which one you specifically need, and the ones we run all the higher numbers are the ones that you use to set up a good amount of your different plays for Pendulum summoning out all these other different ones, including 1 Odd Eyes Light Phoenix, great for the power boosts, and with Odd Eyes in its name, like a good amount of these cards, they're searchable with Sky Iris as well. I also run 1 Odd Eye Synchron, being the tuner of the decks. We can go for our synchro plays. Most of the time I like to go for the level 7 plays with some of our level 5 Performapal monsters, including Gum Gum Mutton just being more of a protection Performapal for cards in the field, but using Synchron and Gum Gum Mutton to go for cards like Clearwing Synchro, or even Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon makes for some pretty good extra deck plays, especially since these monsters can be special summoned in the main monster zone now thanks to Master Rule 5 and not be limited in any way. I also run 1 Performapal Daggerman, being a warrior monster, helps when we go for the play into Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon since it needs a warrior monster to summon it out. And also 1 Odd Eyes Minotaurus. This is great because it's searchable with Odd Eyes in its name for a level 4 monster if I need it for an Xyz play. And lastly, 1 Performapal Odd Eyes Dissolver, another fusion monster, card that helps to go for the fusion plays in the deck, being able to fusion summon a dragon fusion monster, which it may not look it looks more like a beast type, but Odd Eyes Metal Claw is a dragon type since it does have Odd Eyes in its name also, so very fitting there, which then you can use this card to fusion summon that out also. But one-ofs for all these, they're searchable, and all the different scales help if I need a specific one to go with the majority of the high scales that I'm also running in the deck for the plays. If you wanted to drop out a couple of these cards for Performapal Celestial Magician, you can try the Minotaurus and maybe even the Light Phoenix to put in a couple of those if you wanted to run them in the deck for those spots, but completely player preference at that point if they want to go for those plays or just stick to the different Odd Eyes monsters we run in the deck. For the actual Odd Eyes support that go along with all these different cards, I run 3 Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon, a great support card, just being able, if an Odd Eyes card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Odd Eyes monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can use this effect of Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum once per turn. It's another rank 8, and just another card that can be used as Odd Eyes for a lot of our different plays as well. And also 2 of the original Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. I was trying to mix in a way to use the newest Odd Eyes from the Rise of the Duelist booster set, but if you were to run that, you could try taking out maybe 1 or 2 of each of these Odd Eyes monsters for additional spots for that scale 12 monster also. And that is it for the monsters. We run a pretty good amount of monster count in this deck, but they all run very, very well together because Pendulum summoning out different monsters is your main go-to play. So having these for these different plays is very important for sure. For the spells, I run 3 Performapal Popper Up. You send up to 3 cards from your hand to the graveyard, draw that many cards, then you can special summon up to that many monsters from your hand with different names that are Performapal monsters, Magician Pendulums, and or Odd Eyes monsters, each with a level between the Pendulum scales of 2 cards in your Pendulum zone. If you not special summoned by this effect, you lose 1,000 life points for each card in your hand. But most of the time with this deck, you're going to go for the Pendulum summon additional play, basically what this is, because that's what the point of the deck is. You set up the scales, send the 3 cards, and hopefully go for some additional monsters, which, like I said, we're running a majority of in this deck. And all the other spells just play a good part of searching out these cards or thinning out the deck, so we only have a good amount of monsters left to go for also. For some of the other spells, I run 2 Duelist Alliance, being able to search out a card with Pendulum in its name. You can go for your Odd Eyes monsters or even Pendulum Sorcerer for that search if you wish with your Duelist Alliance. So I like to run 2 of this just as an added search power. With all the different Performapal monsters we're running, I also like to run 2 Performance Hurricane. You target cards your opponent controls up to the number of Performapal monsters you currently control, return them to the hand. You can only activate 1 Performance Hurricane per turn, but if your opponent has extra deck monsters, all you need are a couple Performapals on the field. You can bounce them right back to the extra deck and get rid of resources that easier. Or if your opponent had another important setup on the field, being able to return them to the hand can just, clear the way for some back row that may be pesky, so you can then attack with all your Performapals. It's just a good card at 2. 3, I was getting kind of cloggy because I was relying on just 1 Performapal at a time with the bounce because I didn't have enough other monsters to pendulum summon out to the field. And I also run 1 Bubble Barrier, just another great defensive card, especially with our new Performapal Card Gardener, being able to go for that protection play with Bubble Barrier, taking no damage. And just if your opponent needs that 1 monster to swing over, Bubble Barrier will protect it, and then they might not have another option to get around it. For some of the other fusion spots, I run the 2 Polymerization, being searchable with our Trump Witch. I only run the 2 because it's searchable, and we have plenty of other fusion plays, but if you can go for the Polymerization, it's going to want to be your main go-to card for Odd Eyes Metal Claw, like I said before. I like to run the 2 of it, though. Once again, just like Performance Hurricane, it's not as cloggy for your plays. And 1 Odd Eyes Fusion. This card is searchable with Sky Iris, which I run just for more and more Odd Eyes search. So having this as an add option for the additional plays from the extra deck makes it all the better. And we were speaking of it enough, but I run the 2 Sky Iris and the 1 Terraforming as well. With Sky Iris, Magician, Performapal, and Odd Eyes cards in your Pendulum Zone cannot be targeted by opponent's card effects. You can only target one other face-up card you control, destroy it. If you do, add 1 Odd Eyes card from your deck to your hand. You can go for Odd Eyes Fusion, being a fusion search, or any of the Odd Eyes monsters, or even the Odd Eyes dragons themselves with this card. It's a great searcher, especially, but I feel you only need the 2 of and the 1 Terraforming to search out. 3, once again, like the other spells, just too cloggy for me in my opinion. And then the last card is 1 Pendulum Paradox, a recycle card for all the different cards, being able to add 2 face-up Pendulum monsters with the same Pendulum scale, but different names from your extra deck to your hand. You can only activate 1 Pendulum Paradox per turn, but the best one I always like to go for are the Scale 8 monsters. We run plenty of different ones to recycle back into the hand, and the ones I can go for, I can usually set up in the Pendulum scale, having a lower scale on the field to use as well, and then Pendulum summoning out the other ones to the field to use. But that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 2 Performapal Odd Eyes Metal Claw. This card art looks amazing, and it's just such a good fusion card to use. It cannot be used as fusion material if this card is fusion summoned with Polymerization. It is unaffected by other card effects, and when this card declares an attack, all monsters you currently control gain 300 attack until the end of the battle phase. That boost, along with cards like, let's say, a Pendulum Sorcerer for that attack, can mean Metal Claw can get over a good amount of cards your opponent may have on the field. So it's a great fusion to go into, having 3,000 attack alone, and then just being able to boost up everything else on the field as well. And an easy fusion, just needing 1 Odd Eyes monster and 1 Performapal monster to make it. It almost looks like a combination of Silver Claw and Odd Eyes. I think that might even be what it is, just a reverse form of Beast Eyes Pendulum for a Performapal deck. I also run the 1 Performapal Gatling Ghoul, another powerhouse monster for destruction plays, level 5 or higher dark monster, and 1 Performapal monster. So basically Odd Eyes and a Performapal to summon this out also. Just different situations for the different fusion plays. And I also run 1 Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, another great one to make with the Pendulum monsters we run. 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. We run a pretty good amount of dark attribute monsters, so being able to summon this out is just another added bonus for sure. And we spoke of Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon already for the warrior play we can go into also, having plenty of different fusion options for the deck as well. For the Exceed monsters, I run 1 Dark Rebellion and 1 Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. I feel it's very fitting to run Dark Rebellion, just being a Yuya Sakaki deck after he has all the different dimension dragons. And for the Synchros, 1 Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon and 1 Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Same premise, but Meteor Burst along with Absolute just help for all of our different extra deck plays as well. For the Link monsters, I run 1 Barricade Board Blocker. I still only run the 2 Sky Iris, but if my opponent somehow destroys both of them, I want a way to recycle it back onto the field. Cross Sheep with all the different extra deck plays. It's a big help for link summoning also. 1 Vert Anaconda. I don't really use life points for anything in this deck, so being able to use it to send some of our fusion plays with this definitely does come in handy. And I also run 1 Nightmare Unicorn and 1 Zephyr Metaltron to finish off the extra deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. The one strange thing about Rise of the Duelist, we didn't really have any new Cyberse support, so I wasn't able to do an update to the Cyberse deck, but still find it funny because I always love to do updates to the Performapal deck with the release of some of the Arc 5 sets. So with the release of a new set, being able to do an update to Performapals definitely did make me happy to touch up on this old favorite of mine for sure. But that is it for the video. I hope you all enjoyed. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.